Our last module is on decontamination. Notice this heavily encrusted IO motor. A high-pressure wand is used to remove the zebra and quagga mussels or other ANS, after low-pressure hot water was used to kill the mussels. Notice the concentration of mussels below the water line around the gimbal and along the underside of the anti-cavitation plates. The purpose of decontamination is to safely and efficiently kill and remove zebra or quagga mussels or other ANS from watercraft to prevent the introduction and subsequent infestation of a new water body. Safety and efficiency cannot be separated. Ensure staff and public safety by wearing all personal protective equipment. Be aware of your surroundings and prepare the site accordingly to avoid slips, trips, falls, and burns. Think safety before you start. The application used to kill ANS consists of hot water combined with either low pressure or high pressure. There are no soaps, bleaches, or chemicals used or recommended for decontamination. Hot water with low pressure kills the mussels and other ANS, while the high pressure removes attached mussels. High pressure should only be used on the exterior of the watercraft. Decontamination protocols are based on scientific research. In this module, you will need to learn and memorize the following. 140-degree water at high pressure is used to decontaminate the hull and exterior. 140-degree water at low pressure is used to decontaminate motors and engines. 120-degree at low pressure is used to decontaminate the interior compartments and equipment to avoid damage. A 10-second exposure to 140-degree water will kill adults, and 95-degree water will kill villagers. Standard operating procedures, or SOPs, for the different types of units are very similar, but not the same. You need to know what make and model is used at your WID location. Read the SOPs provided with the unit you have on site. Both hydroengineering and hydrotech SOPs are included in your training manual. Let's take a moment to watch our decontamination specialist go over the SOPs for the hydrotech decontamination unit.
When operating a hydrotech decontamination unit, follow the standard operating procedures before and after performing a decontamination to ensure that the unit works properly and to avoid costly repairs later. The hydrotech unit consists of a small engine, a pump, and a burner. The engine runs on unleaded gasoline and the burner runs on either diesel or kerosene fuel. Be sure to check fuel levels before operating the unit and never mix the different types of fuel or fill the wrong fuel tank. All tanks should be clearly labeled. The pump uses a non-detergent oil which should be checked regularly. Depending upon the model, the pump will either have a dipstick or a window to check oil levels. The oil should be a yellow or brown color and have a clear, translucent appearance. Be sure that the oil does not look cloudy or have a milky consistency. This is an indication that there may be a leak and that the pump needs to be repaired. The last fluid to check is the engine oil. Find the dipstick with a yellow ring on the engine and check that the oil is full and clean. Engine oil that is dirty should be changed. Next, roll out the high-pressure hose and check all connections. Decontamination units should never be operated without water and must be connected to a water source. This can be either from a garden hose connection or a water storage tank. Check the water filter for mud, debris, or other obstructions. Once all fluids are checked and water is connected, the decontamination unit is ready to be started. First, depress the trigger so that the pressure does not build up in the system. Next, pull the metal choke and then turn the key. When the engine turns over, push the choke back in. Once the engine is running and water is moving through the system, turn the burner switch to on. A red light will appear when the burner is on. Turn the knob to adjust the water temperature setting. Use a thermometer to ensure that the water is either 120 or 140 degrees, depending upon the procedure. Perform the step-by-step decontamination procedure as needed. Once the decontamination is complete, shut down the unit by first turning off the burner. Continue to squeeze the trigger on the spray gun until the water cools. Next, turn off the engine and the water supply. Finally, squeeze the trigger to release any trapped pressure or water, disconnect the attachments, and store the unit properly.
Let's take a moment to watch our decontamination specialist go over the SOPs for the hydroengineering decontamination unit.
When operating a hydroengineering decontamination unit, follow the standard operating procedures before and after performing a decontamination to ensure that the unit works properly and to avoid costly repairs later. The hydroengineering unit consists of an engine, a pump, and a burner. The engine runs on unleaded gasoline, and the burner runs on either diesel or kerosene fuel. Be sure to check fuel levels before operating the unit and never mix the different types of fuel or fill the wrong fuel tank. All tanks should be clearly labeled. The pump uses a non-detergent oil which should be checked regularly with the dipstick. The pump oil should be a yellow or brown color and have a clear, translucent appearance. Be sure that the oil does not look cloudy or have a milky consistency. This is an indication that there may be a leak and that the pump needs to be repaired. The last fluid to check is the engine oil. Find the dipstick and check that the oil is full and clean. Engine oil that is dirty should be changed. Roll out the high-pressure hose and check all connections. Decontamination units should never be operated without water and must be connected to a water source. This can be either from a garden hose connection or a water storage tank. Next, check the water filter for mud, debris, or other obstructions. Once all fluids are checked and the water is connected, the decontamination unit is ready to be started. First, depress the trigger so that the pressure does not build up in the system. Next, pull the metal choke out and then turn the key. When the engine turns over, push the choke back in. Once the engine is running and water is flowing through the system, turn the burner switch to the on position. Some hydroengineering units do not have a temperature setting. Use a contact thermometer before and during the decontamination to ensure that the water is at the appropriate temperature for the procedure, either 120 or 140 degrees. Perform the step-by-step decontamination procedure as needed. Once the decontamination is complete, shut down the unit by first turning off the burner. Continue to squeeze the trigger on the spray gun until the water cools. Next, turn off the engine and the water supply. Finally, squeeze the trigger to release any trapped pressure or water, disconnect the attachments, and store the unit properly.
Your first priority when performing decontamination is always safety. This includes wearing your personal protective equipment, awareness of your surroundings and the public, proper maintenance and operation of the equipment, and your attitude. Respect your equipment and use it in a professional manner. Education is also very important. Explain to the boater why decontaminations are important and the benefit of doing it now rather than later. Provide the boater with educational brochures and ask them to read them in a safe location while you perform the decontamination. Make sure you are properly documenting the decontamination. A high-risk inspection form must be filled out before and after the decontamination, as well as the 4-page ANS decontamination and vessel decontamination form. Photos must be taken and samples must be collected for identification prior to doing a full decontamination. Report all full decontaminations to your supervisor. Remember, the purpose of decontamination is to kill and remove ANS. Following decontamination procedures will kill all ANS on the watercraft. Remove mud, plants, water, and organisms from the watercraft to the best of our ability. There are 4 types of decontamination that you may perform. Standing water decontaminations are the most common, so we'll start there. Plant decontamination is performed whenever plant material cannot be removed from the watercraft or trailer by hand. Bait treatment protocol is performed when live aquatic bait is present without a valid receipt. Full decontamination is performed when suspect or known mussels or other ANS are detected on the watercraft or trailer. This is a combination of all of the above procedures plus paperwork, samples, and photos. Standing water decontamination is the most common. It forces infested water out of the watercraft while killing veligers and other ANS in the water. It is performed on interior compartments or engines that contain water, cannot be fully drained, or have equipment that have come into contact with the water body. There are certain times when standing water decontamination is required. If the watercraft has been drained to the fullest extent possible and still contains standing water in the bilge, ballast tanks, live bait wells, or engines, or cannot be verified, then perform a standing water decontamination to that location. You learned the triggers for mandatory decontamination in the last module on inspection, standing water rules. Prior to decontaminating interior compartments with pumps, be sure that you have tested the temperature of the water and the unit is running at 120 degrees to avoid damage to the pumps. Do not allow the unit to run hotter than 120 degrees for protection of the watercraft. The temperature of the water from the spray gun and the wash water exiting the watercraft must reach the correct temperature. Different components require using different attachments for standing water decontaminations. You will use a diffuser, fake-a-lake, or motor flushing muff attachments to perform standing water decontaminations. The high-pressure wand is never used in a standing water decontamination. A regular part of the entrance and exit inspection procedure is to remove any plant or plant fragment by hand and properly dispose of it in the trash away from the water body. Sometimes plant fragments get caught in between the hull and the trailer bunks, or wrapped around the propeller and cannot be removed by hand. Then it becomes mandatory to decontaminate the areas where plant fragments remain. Plant decontaminations are a fairly easy and fast process. Soak plants with 140-degree water for 15 seconds. Be sure to use low pressure, especially on carpeted bunks and on the transducer. High pressure may be used on the trailer frame, rollers, and propeller if necessary. If a ballast boat has plant fragments on it, then the ballast tanks must be flushed to eliminate possible fragments within the tanks. Now let's take a moment to watch a short video on the protocol to follow when performing plant decontaminations.
The Watercraft Inspection and Decontamination Program prevents the spread of most aquatic invasive species, including plants or noxious weeds. Hand removal of plants is part of every inspection. Decontaminations are performed when plant fragments on the boat or trailer cannot be fully removed by hand. Even small pieces of aquatic plants can start an irreversible infestation if introduced into a new lake or reservoir. To perform a plant decontamination on the exterior of a boat or trailer, follow the standard operating procedures for your decontamination unit and use a handheld thermometer to measure the temperature until it reaches 140 degrees. Once the proper temperature is reached, soak the plant fragments for 15 seconds to kill them. Use high-pressure water to remove plants that are attached to the exterior of the boat or propeller. Use low-pressure water to remove plants on carpeted trailer bunks to avoid damaging the trailer. If the plant fragments are inside the boat and cannot be removed by hand, soak the plants with low-pressure 120-degree water for 15 seconds to kill them. Finally, follow the standard operating procedures to shut down the decontamination unit.
All right, you're good to go. You guys have a good day out on the water.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent.
Remember, the goal for every inspection is no plants, no mud, no water, and no mussels in between each and every launch.
Bait treatments may be performed at your site. Live aquatic bait regulations differ between the east and west slopes and some counties. Know the rules for your site. A quick review of bait rules. All live aquatic bait must be purchased from an authorized Colorado bait dealer and be accompanied by a dated receipt. Receipts are valid for ANS inspection for 7 days. Out-of-state bait is not permitted. If the receipt is older than 7 days, perform a bait treatment. A clean bucket and fish net will be located at every WID location. Ask the boater to remove the bait from the container and place into a clean holding container. Try to minimize transferring water from the bait container to the holding container. Standing water decontamination temperature for interior compartments with pumps is 120 degrees with low pressure. Replace the water with reservoir water before entering. Remember that bait containers or wells need to be completely drained after use. The boater may take the bait with them when leaving if they provide distilled water to put the bait in. Tap water will kill the bait. Do not allow any out-of-state bait to be used at your body of water. Proper disposal of bait goes into the trash, never into the water body. If the boater does not provide a receipt, then have the boater dispose of the bait in the trash away from the water body. However, there are a few scenarios that permit a bait treatment with no receipt. If bait is fish and was harvested within a half a mile from the reservoir from a man-made ditch or canal. If bait is fish and was harvested within the 5-county exemption, or if bait is wild harvested, non-fish bait. Memorize this table to get a better idea of temperature, pressure, and exposure times for different types of decontaminations and locations. We will cover full decontaminations next. Now let's go over full decontaminations. This procedure is done when mussels or other ANS are found or suspected. If you suspect that you have found mussels or other ANS, or you know you have found a mussel boat, then you will follow the full decontamination protocol. Always follow the procedures in order: report, document, collect, and decontaminate. Never allow the boater to leave with a mussel boat or other suspect ANS. Call law enforcement for assistance if necessary. When filling out documentation, be as accurate as possible with the high-risk inspection, and be sure to inspect every item on the form that applies to that watercraft. When taking photos, start with the CL number on the port side for the first photo. For the second photo, zoom out on the entire watercraft. Photograph the port side to stern, then stern to bow on starboard side. Capture damage and the areas where specimens are located. End photos with the CL number. Beginning and ending the series of photos with the CL number makes the series easier to find in the camera. Make sure to get good photos of the gimbal area from several angles. Take photos of the specimen far away and up close. Hold a common object next to the specimen for scale, a pen or a penny. Take another series of photos in the same fashion after decontamination. The first 2 pages of the ANS decontamination and vessel decontamination form are for recording the watercraft and owner information, decontamination specifics, describe the findings, and record any watercraft damage. The 3rd page documents the location of the ANS on the watercraft. To avoid damaging the watercraft during specimen collection, never use a knife or sharp object. Only use the tools provided in the sampling kits at each WID location. Plastic paint scrapers work well. Be sure to properly preserve and seal samples. Send the samples and page 4 of the decontamination paperwork via FedEx within 24 hours and report that the sample has been shipped. Now let's watch a quick video of how to properly collect a sample from an infested watercraft.
When a full decontamination is performed because invasive mussels or other aquatic invasive species are found on a watercraft, samples must be collected. To collect samples, you will need the kit provided by Colorado Parks and Wildlife. This kit includes 70% ethanol, a teardropper bottle, a plastic paint scraper, glass collection vials, bubble wrap, padded envelopes, a pen and pencil, a sample collection form, stickers, and paper labels. Begin by filling out the sample collection form, which is page 4 of the decontamination paperwork. Be as complete as possible. Using a teardropper bottle, transfer ethanol from the reservoir into the vial and fill it halfway. Use the plastic paint scraper to gently scrape the specimens into the glass collection vial. Collect as many samples as will fit into the vial. If necessary, use more than one vial to collect samples. Fill the vial with ethanol to cover the specimens completely. With a pencil, write the date, location, boat registration, and inspector number on the paper label. Place it inside the vial with the sample. Tightly close the lid and seal it with electric tape. Using a pen, fill out the same information on the sticker label and place it on the outside of the vial. This ensures that at least one label will be legible if the alcohol leaks and damages the ink. Wrap the sample vials in bubble wrap to ensure they do not break during shipping. Put the vials in a Ziploc bag. Write the date, location, boat registration, and inspector number on the bag. Place the bubble wrap samples in a padded envelope mailer along with the white copy page 4 of the sample collection form. Within 24 hours, overnight the package to the laboratory in Brush and email the state coordinator to notify them that a sample has been shipped. Finally, decontaminate and store supplies back in the kit so they are ready to go for the next collection.
For a full decontamination, all parts of the watercraft that come into contact or hold equipment that came into contact with the water body must be exposed to hot water at the appropriate temperature and pressure to ensure the ANS is dead and removed. Sometimes more than one decontamination will be required to properly decontaminate a fully encrusted watercraft. We perform full decontaminations in the opposite order that we inspect the watercraft. Full decontaminations are performed inside to out, bow to stern. Begin by flushing the through-hull discharge ports with 140-degree low-pressure water for 1 minute. Next, go inside the watercraft and flush all interior compartments, include soaking carpets, gear, and other equipment with 120-degree low-pressure water. Third, flush the motor or engine with 140-degree low-pressure water until the exiting water reaches 140 degrees. Then move onto the hull and trailer and thoroughly soak them with 140-degree water with low pressure, moving bow to stern. Last, use high pressure spray on the hull and trailer at a 45-degree angle. Once the decontamination is completed, perform another high-risk inspection to ensure all ANS was removed. If you find any ANS, repeat the process. Once completed and no ANS are detected, take after photos and complete your paperwork. When decontaminating the engine, be very careful around the gimbal unit. The boots or seals are very delicate and can blow out easily. Never use high pressure on the gimbal unit or speed wheels and transducers. Be sure to soak each side of the gimbal with low pressure 140-degree hot water for 2 minutes on each side. When decontaminating an inboard engine, first use a Fake-A-Lake to flush the engine through the engine inlet. Look for the screen cover to identify the correct through-hull fitting. After flushing the engine, add 4 to 5 gallons of 120-degree water to the engine compartment. Remove the plug and continue to flush until the exit water reaches 120 degrees. Also, when performing a full decontamination on an inboard, be sure to fully decontaminate the prop shaft, prop shaft support or rudder, once with low pressure to kill and once with high pressure to remove. Something to consider when performing a decontamination is that the water temperature decreases approximately 15 to 20 degrees per foot of distance when sprayed with a power nozzle. When using high pressure, the maximum distance you should keep the spray nozzle from the hull is 12 inches. Keep the wand within a few inches of the hull at a 45-degree angle and work one area at a time. Never scrub the hull with the wand. Use low pressure on all carpeted areas, decals, electrical connections, gimbal area on the inboard/outboard engine, interior compartments, transducers, depth sounders, and their wiring. Examine the trailer prior to decontamination. Hand remove any loose debris and pay attention to loose nuts and bolts, as these can become dangerous projectiles under pressure. Use high pressure on hard parts and low pressure on anything that could be damaged, like carpeted bunks. Memorize this table so you know the order for a full decontamination, as well as the temperature and pressure for each part of the process. After performing the decontamination, be sure to take after pictures of the watercraft. After pictures will follow the same flow as the before pictures. These pictures are needed to document the removal of any suspect ANS and ensure our protection to avoid liability of any existing damage to the watercraft. Fill out all forms completely and distribute the copies appropriately. Practice taking pictures with the equipment provided. Understand how to use the macro or flower settings on your camera. Be sure to get before and after photos of the same area to illustrate that mussels have been eliminated by decontamination. Take good care to properly preserve your sample and be sure it gets in the mail as soon as possible. Consult your training manual for full collection protocols. Please never turn a mussel boat loose. If you cannot decontaminate it, get help. There are options to resolve the problem, and the program office will help arrange something for you. The program office will help you or call an officer if necessary. If your site has not performed a real decontamination, you must perform one practice standing water and one practice full decontamination per month to keep current on procedures and ensure Decon-ready equipment. This concludes the final module on decontamination. Please complete the Module 4 exam to complete the course.